Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Cameras and Coffee. This week, big news on both the digital and film fronts. We're going to cover both of them in separate episodes. Today, digital, and Thursday, film. But first, all right, this week's coffee comes to us all the way from Maine, from Carabasset Coffee Company. I have the Sunrise Light Roast Blend. I don't normally go for blends, as those of you who watch this series know, but I don't think these guys had any single origins, or maybe it's one of the other bags in my cupboard. It's good. Nice sort of like muted flavor profile. There's no individually like noticeable flavor channels coming through. Tastes pretty much like a very good blend would. Okay, so as I noted at the intro, big news in the photography world this week. First one we're going to talk about today is the Pentax K1 Mark III rumors. The second one that we're going to talk about on Thursday is the Intrepid 150mm f6.3 triplet lens in the electronic Copal Zero shutter. Because as you've probably heard me say many times in this series, if someone doesn't develop new shutters, film photography is in a world of hurt. And so Intrepid, I don't know if I'm assuming someone there listens, but maybe not. Whether they listened to me or just had that idea on their own doesn't matter. I'm very excited that it is happening, and I'm looking forward to talking about that in a couple days. Okay. Anyway, from photorumors.com, and to the author of this, I'm very glad to see you proofread this after the last time I read this article. I am not above reproach when it comes to typos. So anyway, the DSLR is not dead yet. New Pentax K1 Mark III camera rumors. The link to this is in the video's description, and it is important to note that right now this is just coming in as rumors, although apparently there are people field testing late-stage prototypes of this camera. All right, Ricoh is rumored to announce the new Pentax K1 Mark III camera. Here are the leaked specs. Saphox 14 AF system. Sounds good. New full frame sensor. Again from Sony. Good. Sony sensors are fantastic. 3 different sensors are installed in the prototypes, but the guess in this is that it's going to be a 61 megapixel back screen illuminated CMOS sensor. 61 megapixels. All right. Look, I know that is such a ridiculous number. All right, so I know that like I have the 50S that I own. That taxes my computer, which is now 3 years old? 3 years old this week. And the 100 megapixel Fuji RAW files, like my computer is like screaming in pain when I try to edit them. So that's why I went with the 50 megapixel Fuji, that in cost. 61 megapixel files are enormous, absolutely enormous. Like the computer I kind of want to build after this one ages out of usefulness is like going to be lower spec than what I have right now, because anyway, I just 61 megapixels. Ricoh, if you're listening, like, come on, guys, that's way too many. That's enormous. Says very fast frame per second rate. That's good. If this has a 61 megapixel sensor and a fast frame rate, that means one of two things: either very small buffer or very, very powerful onboard computer with tons and tons of memory, which is going to be very expensive. I don't see a third path forward for a fast frame rate and a 61 megapixel sensor. USB-C 3.2, fantastic. Joystick, meh. Not a huge fan of joysticks because they are unless they're really like well engineered. I mean, I don't like the interface of a joystick at all, period. But I have seen older cameras that used joysticks with broken joysticks. So I'm leery of that. Touchscreen, which can thankfully be turned off. Good. Touchscreen's huge annoyance for me. New smart functions, which include those that the K3 III does not have yet. Not exactly sure what those will be. Bluetooth and Wi-Fi, standard. New control software for the cell phone with Live View, which was fantastic. Cameras going forward should definitely be cell phone controllable, especially with live view and full control on the cell phone. The key to that is going to be that Ricoh will need to have a really wonderful app interface. Streamlined, good UX, good UI, and very reliable. Otherwise, don't waste our time with it. That is something I would say to every camera maker, by the way. GPS built in, to be expected. Astro Tracer built in, it's also to be expected. Key illumination, to be expected and very nice. Very solid workmanship, again, to be expected, and very good feel. Again, like Ricoh does a wonderful job in their camera workmanship and build quality, so I would think that would happen. Of course, the optical viewfinder, but significant improvements in the information display. So optical viewfinder, really nice. Information display, I'm really interested to see how that is going to work out, because I think that when a company like Ricoh looks at how they can display information differently and make improvements in that regard, that hints at a mindset where they are looking at how the user can have an improved experience, which will make the camera more enjoyable to use. I do hope that the optical viewfinder has a bit of magnification in the same way that at least the K3 Mark III has, where it's a little bit of a bigger image than what goes to the sensor. 100% frame coverage would also be lovely in that. Production is scheduled to start in Vietnam in October. Wait, that's like today. It doesn't say when in October, but at some point. LCD display with a slightly higher resolution than the K1 III. That must be meant to say the K1 II. That's fine, to be expected. The battery remains the same as the K1 II, the 645Z rather, and other Pentaxes. Fantastic. That means I don't have to get rid of my stockpile of that type of battery. Let's see. The battery, oh yeah, 2 CF Express memory card slots. That's going to be expensive. CF Express, it doesn't say whether it's type A or type B. If it's 2, I'm going to guess it is, what's the smaller one? Is that the type A? I think so. The Sony a7 IV that I use, I think it's the same size as that one versus, say, the Nikon Z6 and Z6 II, which uses a slightly larger one than the Sony. I think the Nikon uses the type B and the Sony uses the type A. So if it's got 2 CF Express memory card slots, probably the type A just based on size. Those are spendy little cards, but they're very fast. That would also be, if they have a fast frame rate and 61 megapixel RAW files, that would also be required for a good frame rate, is a very fast memory card write speed, which the Express card, the CF Express, could provide. So that's exciting. This is not going to be a cheap camera. Just reading through what this says and what this hints at, that's expensive. Hopefully one of those Express memory cards will also take the UHS 3 or the UHS 3 SD cards, if that have the very high, the V90 rate and the 2 rows of contacts on the back of them. I would hope that's the case, but there's nothing in here to indicate whether or not that will be the case. So very exciting that the K1 Mark III is arriving, potentially rumored to be arriving. Does not sound like it will be here in time for Christmas, but next year in time for hiking and landscape photography season, definitely, if this is all true. So, man, that's some big news. It is good to hear that Ricoh is still developing their cameras, and it does sound like they have, even if they haven't told us, the public, what the plan is, their pace of development has been pretty steady, and that indicates they have an internal roadmap and plan that they're going forward with, and that this is just a part of it. So, yeah. Will I buy the K1 Mark III? That's going to depend on the cost, and it's definitely not going to happen on day one like it did with my last 2 Pentax cameras, however many Pentax cameras, simply because this sounds like a very expensive camera. So I will probably rent it shortly after it comes out, hang on to it like for a month or 6 weeks, enough time to make a video about it and a review, and then see if I want to buy it or not from there. So, but I am exceedingly excited to see that Ricoh has potentially been developing a new full frame camera. Thank you everybody for watching, and I'll see you in 2 days, and we'll talk about the new Intrepid Kickstarter and that lens.